Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome once again to IPSI's weekly forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I am your host, Joshua Washington, the executive director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. And we are going to get into a few things today. I apologize here. I just realized I hadn't turned on this one thing. Boom. And now the lamp is on. So that must be much. Can you guys see me now? Much better, right? We have a few things to talk about today. I think that first of all, sorry, I was about to get right into it. First of all, that theme song was again the first 7 miles by Randy Sandoli. If you want to check that out, you can go to all streaming platforms and find the album. The artist's name is Randy Sandoli. The album is called Simcha, which means joy in Hebrew. If you like that tune, you can check out some of the other tracks, and there's very, very beautiful music on that album, and we're happy to have that one as our theme song. If you want to know more about IPSI, if this is your first time watching us, go to our website, ibsi.org, and you can check out all the content that we have and learn a lot more about us there. Also, you can become a legacy builder. Da-da-da. You can see on my shirt here, I'm wearing our legacy builder shirt today. If you're watching on our restream, or if you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, or Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, you'll see the QR code on the side. You can scan that. If you're listening on Instagram or watching on Instagram or Clubhouse, you can go to ibsi.org and you'll see the button there to donate and to become a legacy builder. Look, so far, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row, after each live stream, after each forum, we've gained another donor. I think one time was a legacy builder, one time was a one-time donor. So we really appreciate it. Tell your friends, share these things with people. As a matter of fact, as you're watching right now, tag your friends, tag your neighbors. We have some stuff to get into today. January 25th, our CEO and founder, Pastor Dumisani Washington, presents an event called The Blueprint of Dr. King's Support for Israel. The event is only for IPSI donors and legacy builders. So if you are a legacy builder, you do not want to miss this event. It's a very exclusive, a very deep dive type of event. If you want to be a part of it, then all you got to do, if you're not a legacy builder, is become a legacy builder, and then you can be a part of that amazing event that's happening in 3 days. The Blueprint of Dr. King's Support for Israel. It's a must-hear message. February 10th and 11th, also our CEO and founder will be speaking in Hampton, Georgia at the Agape International Ministries at their Israel Summit 2024. Again, you can go to our website and click on events. You'll see all the events lined up for that. If you are in the Atlanta area, if you are in the Hampton area, do not miss this opportunity to not only get the information from this event, but to meet our CEO and founder in person. He'll be in Atlanta. Don't miss it. On February the 25th, anyone who's watching this from Miami or close to Miami, just wave at me. I will be in Miami on the 25th doing a very special live event with Sarah Akiba. The event is called Black and Jewish Solidarity, Where We've Come From, Where We're Going. And we will be discussing exactly that. And again, it's another kind of deep dive into what's going on and what are some of the causes for what's going on, and also dispelling some misconceptions about what's going on, and looking and actually uncovering some things about what was and what can be. So if you're in Miami, you see the screen popped up. You can also go to ibsi.org, go to events, register. It's a free event. You register for it. If you register, it'll ask you if you want to donate to IPSI. Look, please do. We're not going to tell you not to, but the event is free. Come out. And again, I would love to meet you in person. I'm looking forward to spending the weekend down there with Sarah and her crew, but also doing this event and probably some other things as well regarding music and other IPSI related stuff. So don't miss it. All right. Now, our 100K in 29 days, usually it's 28 days, or I should say last year 20 days, but I guess it's a leap year this year. So 100K in 29 days begins February 1st. So that's just in a couple of weeks from now, you guys. You can help by donating and sharing with your friends and family. It's every year we do this from the beginning of February until the end for Black History Month. We have a campaign to raise $100,000. Our first time doing it, we surpassed it. Our second time we got close, and we're hoping for a year of surpassing as well. So please, during that campaign, we ask that you consider giving a little extra, consider giving a little more if you already give, and helping IPSI continue our message and our goals of Black and Jewish and Africa and Israel solidarity. We got a lot of events coming up, guys. A lot of events. All right, now let's get into the program for today. And I want to say, as we're going through this, people, some of you already do that. I welcome questions. If you type them in, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever, I'll see them. If you type questions in on Instagram, I'll see them as well. Definitely want to engage with you in that way as we go through this. But today, it's almost today's almost just laying out some facts, and challenging you to really look at what's going on, challenging you not to play these things off, right? So for those who still have, common sense left, I'm challenging you to think a little bit. So let's talk about Harvard for a second. We've been talking about Harvard for the past couple of weeks. We talked about Claudine Gay. I shared I think it was 2 weeks ago in our forum, that if we just go after Claudine Gay, and I'm talking about, I know there were two other presidents of two other universities, and that was my point. That was my point to the whole anti-racist crowd, that, you guys, it's not racism. There were two other presidents of two other universities who were also on trial. One is white and one was Jewish. It has nothing to do with race, everything to do with their poor leadership skills, and also their refusal to denounce calls for genocide, calls for Jewish genocide. So we talked about that. But then I said, on the other hand, you guys, we have to be careful not to make Claudine Gay the new boogeyman, because she is just a symptom of a very, very deep, very, very long in terms of history, decades long, a very, very deep, long disease that has plagued our universities. And that if we just go after her and then go back to being silent about the epidemic that has swept across college campuses, and that is manifested through the administration, faculty, and curriculum, then you do seem like the racist, right? You do seem like you just didn't want the Black girl at Harvard. And when I said that, we wound up clipping it and posting it, and some people got upset by watching that. I meant every word that I said, and I'm even going to double down on this now, because what we see not 3 weeks after having that conversation, right? Harvard has formed, and stop me if you've heard this one before, Harvard has just formed a new anti-Semitism task force. Wow, sounds a lot like the White House and the Biden administration. They started an anti-Semitism task force, okay? The co-chair of the anti-Semitism task force is a man by the name of Derek Pinsler. He is a rabid anti-Zionist Jew. He is someone that my Jewish friends would call a self-hating Jew, because he doesn't just say things about Zionists. He says some pretty damning things about Jews in general, using his own Jewish identity as a shield or a prop to stand up on. What do I mean by that? Just a few things that he's quoted saying, and some of the things that he's done as a part of his resume. So first of all, not only is he the co-chair of this new anti-Semitism task force at Harvard, he is the director for the Center of Jewish Studies and professor of Jewish history. Okay. So it's a couple of things. He's quoted in his book saying, he's written a book about some other things, and many other things he wrote about a Jewish society, civilization in Israel. He's quoted in his book saying, veins of hatred run through Jewish civilization. This is him, right? He's also quoted saying, talking about Israel now, he says that Israel's dispossession of Palestinians from their land and oppression of those who remain have made it one of the most disliked countries on the planet. Okay, so just And you can read more. You can check out his reading. Look him up. Derek Penzler. Derek Derek Penslar. He has all the kinds of writings. He doesn't make any bones about this, right? So now let's kind of like go through the series of events. I know sometimes with a ton of information, sometimes we forget about the other pieces to the puzzle. So Harvard students on campus were chanting chants that were calling for the genocide of Jews. Whether they want to admit it or not, that's what they were doing. And apparently this was happening on other campuses as well. So you have 3 different university presidents. One was the president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, at a hearing, along with Sally Kornbluth and McGill. I can't remember her first name right now. And they were sitting in front of a panel of people asking them questions. One of the questions that was asked was, does students calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's or the other schools too, MIT and everything? Does it violate their code of conduct? None of them could answer definitively and say, yes, it does violate it. Each one of them kept saying, well, yeah, and then obviously the famous phrase now that's gone all over social media, depends on the context. It depends on the context. What context does it depend on? So are you saying that there are some instances where it's okay to call for the genocide of a group of people? So that happened, right? So that took the internet by storm, and rightfully so. And one of the things that we've noticed, because we've noticed this cycle now for a while at IPSI, is that became the focus in the Israel advocacy space. That became the thing. It depends on the context. Depending on the context. Get Claudine Gay out and get these other ladies out as well. So, okay, fine. Claudine Gay resigns, even though she still is, I think she was making $900,000 a year. Now she's making $600,000. So she's still getting paid, but she resigned from that position. Everyone goes, yay, yay, good job. Look what we did. And now we've kind of just gone about our merry way. And when I say that, I'm not saying that there aren't people who are fighting, on the ground legally. What I'm saying is there's a very, very stark difference in the public response to Claudine Gay and the other two, and then the public response to now what is still going on at Harvard. So then what it communicates, and I'm talking to us now as in Israel advocacy space, what it communicates to our donors, to the people who follow us, to our loyal followers and people who read our stuff every day, is that everything on college campus is hunky-dory, and you just have these students who can be kind of rabble-rousers, and we'll put them in their place. All you got to do is send us more money. And it's a lie. It's a false picture that's being painted. No, everything is not hunky-dory at these universities. What's happening at Harvard is just a tiny percent of what happens at Harvard all the time. As a matter of fact, what we saw, I keep saying this, but I'll say it again because it apparently hasn't sunk in. The day after October 7th, there are a bunch of people in the streets of New York celebrating. There are a bunch of people in the streets of the Bay Area of Los Angeles celebrating this stuff. And a lot of those kids were high school and college age kids. And one of the points that I was discussing this with our CEO, one of the points that he made was, this is just college campus copy and paste onto the streets. Nothing has really changed in terms of animosity towards Israel in the space. It's just that it's not confined now. It's not in the confines of a university. That's all. They just took it to the streets. So people look at it and they go, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? Oh my goodness, there's so much. Oh, where did this come from? I thought that it was always there. We're not actually addressing what is the root of the issue. Now we want to talk about the billions and billions of dollars that come into universities from foreign countries, which is that we need to talk about that. Qatar and Russia and the Palestinian Authority even sends money to university campuses. You believe that, right? Their people are poor and suffering. Somehow they find the money to export to American schools. So let's talk about that. That's fantastic. The problem is this has always been the case. This has been the case for decades. This has been the case for decades, and we haven't been addressing this. So again, I'll say, if all we want to do now is go after Claudine Gay and Sally Kornbluth and the other lady, and then when Claudine Gay resigns, and if the other two wind up resigning tomorrow, we say yay and say victory and walk away. we have done more harm than good, because now we have implied to the people who follow us, to the people who donate to us, that there was a problem. It's just these people over here, but don't worry, they resigned and now everything's all good again. Why do you think there is a president at Harvard who cannot who cannot condemn calling for the genocide of Jews? Why do you think that there are students marching around Harvard in the first place calling for a genocide of Jews? It's a game, you guys, because this is the deep, deep, deep thing that's going on right now. And to further the game, you have Harvard, again, who formed a new anti-Semitism task force, and the co-chair is an anti-Zionist Jew named Derek Pinsler. Not just anti-Zionist. So I don't like to throw around the term self-hating, because people use it all the time, and I don't think it's really accurate most of the time. But this guy, the first quote that I gave to you he wasn't talking about Israel. He said veins of hatred run through Jewish civilization, right? So here's a Jewish man who says that Jews have hatred in their veins. He said that Israel is one of the most disliked countries on the planet because they dispossessed the Palestinians. So now you have this guy as the co-chair. And you know what it is? It's a game, because now if they say that the anti-Semitism task force, if people say, and right, we're going to say that this task force sucks, it doesn't actually address anything. They're going to say, we have a Jew in our co-chair. So, I mean, what are you going to, that's the tokenism, right? That is the tokenism. All they did was get in that. And that's why that's why I said, I'll say it again. the interim president of Harvard right now is a Jewish man. And I said he might be great, and I hope so. But you guys, there was a lot of people posting and celebrating. Went, see, we're playing the identity politics game that we just condemned with Claudine Gay. We just said it's not racism that we're coming against Claudine Gay. Okay, it's not just because she's black. You guys need to stop doing that. What about Dr. King's dream? He said he dreamed that people will be judged by the content of their character. Okay, and then Harvard appointed a Jewish guy as the interim president, and some of my Jewish friends were like, "Yay! All right, fantastic." I went, "You guys, that doesn't mean anything. He could be amazing. He could be terrible. That has nothing to do with his ethnic makeup, his ethno-religion, nothing." So again, I hope that guy is great, but the new person that they put on the anti-Semitism task force at Harvard is a self-hating Jew, is an Israel-hating Jew, who's not going to do anything to better anything on campus, because he probably agreed with the chants that were going around campus. If he was sitting in front of the people giving an account like Claudine Gay was, he probably wouldn't have been able to answer the question either. If he was asked the same question, okay, does call for genocide on Harvard's campus violate code? Would he have said, yes, we condemn that? I don't know. Judging by the stuff that he's written and spoke on in the past, I would doubt it. I would doubt that he would. So this is who we have now. So we have an anti-Semitism task force. I don't even know the rest of the members. The co-chair, though, is someone who, the co-chair, not just a member, someone who's at the helm with someone else, is someone who hates Israel and has said some very, very hateful things about his own people, the Jews. Doesn't look very good. Okay? That's the game that gets played. That's the game that gets played on the university's part. And then the game that gets played on our part as Israel advocates is that we don't have the same energy for that. And I'm not saying because he's Jewish. I'm saying we have the energy for things that we want to have the energy for, that we think makes us look good. And then things that are a little bit more in the weeds, a little more cumbersome, or this is going to take more work. This is more long-term. And donors don't want to see long-term stuff. They want to see the short-term stuff. Then we do the okie doke, and then things get worse. So what's going to happen is that a lot of us are going to be silent about Harvard over the next few months until something boils over again. And then there's another person that we can point to and blame, instead of looking at the entire system and trying to actually dismantle what has been built over decades at Harvard, other Ivy League schools, and other colleges and universities. And yeah, that work takes a lot more effort and a lot more time. But again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. But if you're going to call yourself an Israel advocate, if you're going to call yourself actually being in this space and doing the work, and you're not willing to do that, then you should probably find another line of work. No one's forcing you to be in the Israel advocacy space. Pick another job. Pick another thing to do. Pick another cause to take up. So we're still going to be here for a moment because I'm going to now remind you. We're going to take a walk down memory lane just for a moment. We're going to go back to May 25th of 2023. And hold on, before I do that, someone just commented. I want to see that. My cousin is the CEO of a Jewish fraternity with houses in many major universities and has been dealing with a multitude of reports of anti-Semitic backlash since October 7th. Oh, yes, yep, yeah. Someone, that's just another example of yeah, it's another example of that. Like, and that's how you can tell it's not just anti-Zionism, because these are Jews and across the country being attacked. Someone else said, why are many high-profile Zionist Jews silent? I'm not in their heads. I can't speak for them. I do know that human nature, when you're so high profile, people don't want to risk. People don't really want to. No one wants to lose everything that they have, right? So even some of the people that you might see speak out on certain issues, I'm telling you guys, they did a calculated thing and saw that most people that follow them support them in that issue or don't care enough to unfollow them. So you'll see, your favorite, and please don't get distracted. I don't care what your views are on any of these issues, but I'm bringing them up. You'll see your favorite actress, your high profile person speak out about climate change, right? You'll see them speak out about abortion, even with abortion as volatile as that topic is. You'll see a lot of people speak out about that because there are a lot of people who are pro-life who are aware that there are people who support abortion who are their favorite actors, and they still follow them. They're like, oh, whatever, right? But you won't see them speak out on things that could really actually hurt their career. Not a lot of people. Not a lot of people really do the thing that will risk their careers. And the ones that did, we forgot about them because their careers are over, right? Like, if you just kind of think for a few minutes, you'll go, oh yeah, what happened to that person? Yeah, there was one. There's a guy, but I'm not going to go into that because I can't remember his name. I don't want to say the wrong name. But there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who used to be very high profile and decided to speak out on a certain issue that was actually not a part of the script. See, there's a script, and you can speak out on some things. That's on the script, right? There's controlled opposition. There's all that stuff. You can speak out about some things as long as it's in the script. But once you go off script, that's when you get ostracized. And that's where we are. I mean, that's what it is. There are people who have publicly come out and talked about how they were child actors and actresses. They were big and they were molested by a flurry of Hollywood stars and executives and producers. We don't hear about them anymore. They live normal lives now, if they're still alive, and they're just kind of chilling somewhere because that they risked their career to speak a truth, right? And if they're believers, they believe in Hashem. If they're Christians, or if they're Jewish, they pray that, okay, I pray that my words will at some point fall on the right ears. It's, things are recorded, things are out there. We'll see, but I did my part, and now my career is over. And their reward may not be here on earth, and we can't. That's the concept that's especially for us Westerners, we can't grapple with. It's hard for us to grapple with, especially for us. It's a Christian principle, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the Torah as well about your reward for doing things that aren't popular is not here on earth. And in the age of social media, that literally is what that is you getting your reward right now. I'm going to post something and I'm going to get a bunch of likes. I'm going to try to get a bunch of comments and approvals and shares. That's instant gratification. And for us Christians, scriptures talk about that. We're not supposed to live for instant gratification. So those high profile people, they're afraid of their careers being over. They're afraid of being canceled, all that stuff. And yeah, and and then also there's the issue of, and you're right, Monica, of people like they're calculating, okay, but I have people to feed my families. I have people who work for me. And if I do this, am I prepared to lose everything to the point of everyone around me also losing a lot, right? Am I prepared to bring my family to a place where now my kids aren't safe? And you got to understand, you guys, some of these people, like when it comes to the issue of college campuses and high school campuses, right? And a much of the curriculum comes from is funded by and written by other countries like Qatar, other countries like I said, well, the Palestinian Authority is not a country. Palestinian Authority, Russia, foreign. First of all, why is any foreign country drafting our curriculum for our kids? That's the first thing. But secondly, that we know people personally who have been who uncovered some of these things and started to report on it. But the more they uncovered, the more afraid they got because they're like, okay, damn, this goes a lot deeper than I thought this was. And I don't even know the enemies I'm making or I will make by exposing this. It might be the person who I thought was supposed to be working with me in this. Now I'm messing with it. There's so much compromise that it's like, okay, am I really willing to be at a place where some random phone number texts me a picture of my child in school and says, I know where your kid goes to school? Do you see what I'm saying? Like that it is like that for some people, and they go, I don't know if I want to do that. And it's a choice, but a lot of high profile people, it's that, and even more so because they're famous. Everyone knows where they are. They're famous. Um, and there's a lot of other stuff with that too. But yeah, it's tough. So now we're gonna stroll down memory lane. May 25th, 2023, President Biden announced the White House would form an anti-Semitism task force. Okay. Now, on the task force, one of the members of the task force is an organization by the name of the Council on American Islamic Relations. The head of that organization, we call it CARE, C-A-R, is Nihad Awad. He is the head of CARE. Now, why is that important? Should an Islamic organization not be a part of an anti-Semitism task force? I mean, whatever. It's a task force. I mean, inherently, it's maybe a multi-ethnic, maybe a multi-religion coalition can be good in some instances. I'm not saying just because they're an Islamic organization that they shouldn't be a part of this. But if you know anything about CARE, and I wrote about this, we just published it, I think yesterday. It's called Psychological Compromise. And that's on our Substack. You can go to IBS, or you can go to Africa Israel Weekly. Go to our Substack page and you can see the article and all the other articles that are going to be up there. And I'm doing a podcast interview tomorrow that we're recording. So podcast will be up soon, but that'll be just for paid subscribers. And I got a whole list of dates of podcasts coming up. So you guys become a paid subscriber to our Substack page. Subscribe to Africa Israel Weekly. That is one way you can contribute to IPSI. That would be very, very beneficial. We are almost to 1,000 subscribers. If you are a free subscriber now, consider switching over to being a paid subscriber. Just pay a small monthly amount, and you'll be able to get all of our podcast episodes that are coming out as well. Okay, now back to this. So the article I wrote was called Psychological Compromise. Subtitle, I think, is Radical Islam, Faux Human Rights Organizations, and I can't remember I wrote it. I can't remember the last thing is, but it's called Psychological Compromise. And the article talks about it's both experiential and informational. Experiential in that I was 10 on September 11th, and it was just just 12 days before my 11th birthday. My birthday's on September 23rd. And I was kind of recounting some of the things that I saw as a kid and some things that I had processed. Okay. And one of the things that I noticed I didn't follow the news or anything, but culturally, some of the cartoons I'd watch and just the atmosphere, I didn't have the word for it back then because I didn't know this was a term. But what I did see was this messaging that, because some people were actually like beating up people who looked Muslim. Sometimes they weren't even Muslim. Sometimes it was like a Sikh gentleman walking down the street and these guys came and jumped him, right? They were angry, they're traumatized, they're mad. And so there's messaging going out saying, basically, we shouldn't do that, you guys. These people are American as well. And I appreciate it. I remember even as a kid, I liked seeing that, right? Because to me, I thought about not just the fact that we need to hear that, but our Muslim American citizens also need to hear that there are Americans who are saying this is not cool, right? So I like that. But then what I also saw as a kid, and I was like, it bothered me so much, was this ridiculing and even poking fun at people who simply would be simply who were simply nervous to get on a plane if they saw a man who looked Muslim get on a plane with them, who would say, I'm man, I don't know. I just, oh, you racist. It's like, okay, guys, there's a thing called trauma, right? If 9/11 was done by a bunch of skinhead white guys, then we would be afraid to get on a plane if we saw a bald white guy get on a plane, whether he was a skinhead or not. It wasn't about race. It was just the fact that the people who did these things subscribed to this religion and they looked and dressed this way. And so after 9/11, people were afraid to get on airplanes. And then when they would see someone who looked and dressed the same way, they were like, oh my gosh, is this it for us? That wasn't a racist thing. It's a trauma response thing. The guy could have been Asian. The guys who did 9/11 could have been white, Asian, black, Mexican. It doesn't matter. That image would have been seared into our brains, and that would have been the trauma response. So I was like, it seems a little bit unfair to like really come down hard on these people for just feeling afraid. It's a real emotion. But I didn't really know. I didn't put those words together quite like that, but I was just like, I don't like that. I was like, but everyone does bad things. Like, we can't say that Muslims can't do anything bad. I mean, we all do bad stuff, right? And as I got older, that's when I learned the term gaslighting. I went, oh, that was gaslighting. Okay. That's what gaslighting was. So I experienced it as a kid. I didn't know what it was. But something that I didn't know, and that my dad, our CEO, shared with us maybe a year ago. And I was like, I've never seen this before. There was a speech that former President George W. Bush gave just 6 days after September 11th. I was going to show the speech. It's a little bit long. A lot of you have maybe seen it. And the speech, essentially, he gives it at the Washington Islamic Center just 6 days after September 11th. Okay. He gives a speech basically saying that what I'm telling you right now about, it was a horrific thing. But we don't hate our Muslim brothers and sisters here in America. They're also appalled by this. And, they feel like their religion's been hijacked. And we just want to show our love to them and let them know that, we don't hold them accountable for this because they've contributed so much to our society. So that the whole speech was just about that, right? Just 6 days after September 11th. Okay. Now I'm 33. I was 32 at the time watching this. So this is now my 32-year-old brain, right? No more 10-year-old Joshua, 32-year-old. I went, I don't know. That seems a little bit quick to be. I mean, I get it, but goodness gracious. But the thing, though, that we have to know, if you don't know this, Nihad Awad, again, is the head of CARE. And you can read this in the article. It's becoming less and less of a secret, ladies and gentlemen, that CARE is a front for terrorism. And it's not speculation anymore. Maybe if I said this 4 years ago, you could call me an Islamophobe and plaster me all over the place and throw me under the bus. Can't really do that now. Why? How do we know this? Nihad Awad, just a few days after October 7th, 2023, when Hamas invaded Israel, tortured, burned, murdered, raped, kidnapped a bunch of Israelis and foreign nationals, still has hostages right now where they're sexually abusing them, physically abusing them, and basically have made them to their slaves. Right after that, the head of CARE, Nihad Awad, said that the events of October 7th made him happy, that Hamas made him happy, that he was happy to see that happen. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. I just apologize. Okay, the mask is off. So now, when you look at someone asks, what is the Islam is peace speech? If you go, we had the video linked, but I don't want to, it's a long one, but you search it. It's on YouTube. It's called U.S. President Visits the Islamic Center. That's what it's called. You could type in George Bush Islamic Center. President Bush Islamic Center, whatever. You'll find it on YouTube. He's at the Islamic Center giving a speech. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, saying that. So you can find it. Standing behind President Bush while he's making this speech, directly behind him, is the head of CARE, Nihad Awad. Now, I don't know if he's the head of CARE here, but CARE was a thing already, and he was a part of it. Standing right behind President Bush while he's making a speech. This same person is quoted saying, Hamas made me happy after October 7th. So if you can see Yehuda Ben Israel, if you're still watching this, the link to the video is up there. Hamas made him happy. It's the head of CARE. The head of CARE, which was started in the early 90s as a way to combat Muslim hatred. Like one of their first acts was actually getting this movie that had come out, or that was going to come out, changed or not, or I don't know if they changed it or they were able to just cancel it altogether. But it was a movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger was acting in, and there was a joke about Shiite Muslims, and that was one of the first things. They were like, we're not having this, right? Okay. That's ostensibly, hey, we don't want our people, our religion being made fun of and all those things. Okay. I mean, they have their free speech and you have the freedom to protest them. That's all good. But okay. So now we're looking at the fact that the head of CARE, we don't have to look at all the other stuff. There's some sketchy stuff from the funding that CARE receives and where it comes from and other literature. We can look into all that. And some of that is linked in the latest article you can check out. Again, it's called Psychological Compromise. But just that alone, the head of CARE said that Hamas made him happy on October 7th. And CARE didn't come out with a statement saying, oh, we condemned that and we fired him. And business as usual. The reason why the article is called Psychological Compromise is because what has successfully happened over the years, and like I said, I wasn't aware of it when I was a child, but I'm doing this now in retrospect and also having very, very fascinating conversations with people who were my age, around my age when September 11th happened. What has been successfully done by radical Islamists is, I was like, just think of like the PR genius, the marketing genius of these group of people who claim your religion just enacted one of the deadliest terrorist attack that America has seen since, I don't know, maybe Pearl Harbor. I don't know. Like that's right. So that's that. And then still this organization, CARE and others, are able to push the culture in a way where culturally, and I'm a musician, I'm in the artist space, so there's a lot of this, right? We're very sensitive people. We don't want to rock the boat too much. We'll speak certain truths if it kind of goes with everything else, and we'll capitulate the things that we know is crap because we just don't want to, right? We don't want to be too controversial. We'll go to political rallies if we know that we're going in a space where everyone agrees with us and it agrees with the general population, all that kind of stuff, right? So I know this just from that, right? And yes, and Yehuda, you made a great point. The White House did drop Nihad from the task force, but he's done so many other things leading up to that that was just a PR. It's okay, now the mask is all the way off, so we can't really. It'd be a bad look to still have you on here. But anyway, so after September 11th, still the culture, they were able to shift the culture in a way that now in 2024 still, but it's happening. It's I think it's starting to wear off, but I mean all through the 2000s, the 2010s, and people were afraid to say anything that might be considered, well, they were too afraid to say anything truthful for the fear of being called an Islamophobe and getting ostracized and looking a certain way, right? That was so. And I said this before, and this is in the article. San Bernardino, when that couple shot up, that Muslim couple shot up the hotel, San Bernardino, they had, for weeks leading up to their attacks, been ordering such a huge amount of packages. Now, I know some of you do Amazon and you'll get like a package or two every single day, right? They were getting the UPS man or the FedEx man said that I think it's UPS. He was suspicious because he was delivering up to a dozen packages in a single day sometimes. Their neighbor said they were suspicious because they were seeing dozens of packages being delivered to them throughout the course of a week. Like the UPS man would drop off tons of boxes, and the next day tons of boxes, and the next day for weeks. And the neighbors would see that. Okay, why didn't anyone say anything? The neighbor said, "Well, we just didn't want to. They're a Muslim, and we didn't want to seem like we hate Muslims." Okay, but then they shot up the hotel, though, right? It had nothing to do with them being Muslim. They could have been a white family. The neighbors were suspicious because of all the boxes. Why are you ordering so many boxes every day for weeks? How is it that you get 10, 12, 15 packages every day for weeks? That would make anyone suspicious, no matter the skin color of the person. But they specifically didn't say anything about this couple because they didn't want to, just in case they might be wrong, and now they'll be labeled a racist because you hate Muslims and you have unconscious bias. So now you have this unconscious bias, meaning that you have this hatred of Muslims just kind of in the back of your head, and it's always going to be there. So every action you take reflects that. So you need to watch it at all times. So they're like, see, it's not even just everyone. It's not even just being labeled something. It's the fear that it might be true. That's the thing that gets a lot of people, is that maybe I do just hate Muslims. That's the genius of the messaging. It's not just I don't want to be seen as an Islamophobe, right? It's what if I am one? A lot of people have accepted this whole unconscious bias that what if I just have it? Yes, I just know in my heart of hearts that this is wrong, and I'm pretty sure that I would think this is wrong if it was someone else. If they're a black, white, Jewish, Asian, whatever, I would say, okay, that's a lot of packages in a short amount of time. But you know what? There might be a point to the whole, maybe I do just hate Arabs. I'm just going to back up. Maybe I hate Muslims. Okay, I won't say anything. Okay, well, that not saying anything got a lot of people killed that day in San Bernardino, right? So what I'm saying is the culture has been able to shift successfully to now we can literally see something in front of our face and go, I'm probably missing some context here. I'm not going to say anything. Right. And that's the thing. So check out the articles, a lot more in there. But so this same head of care who stood behind President George W. Bush, while he made a speech at the Islamic Center in Washington 6 days after September 11th, saying that we love our Muslim citizens and we know that they're peaceful and all that stuff. That's the same head of care that was on camera just not too long after October 7th saying that what Hamas did made him happy. So Hamas made him happy. The same Hamas that says that what they're doing in Israel, they're going to do to the West. The same Hamas that's backed by Iran. The same Hamas that's linked to Qatar. The same Hamas that has the same backers as Boko Haram, as Al-Shabaab. He said they made him happy. Get this man. Okay, no. Don't just take this man off the Antisemitism Taskforce. Get this man out of the country. Audit care, like honestly audit care, and dismantle it after finding all this, because you will find all kinds of stuff. If the head of care is saying that with no repercussions from care itself, then care is compromised as well. And if we in the pro-Israel community are not going to also go after care in word and in deed and on all fronts, then we are also a little bit compromised, you guys. I mean, it's not just, and that's the thing, is that we miss the forest. I think we miss the forest for the trees a lot. So we go after the Claudine Gays, we go after the Nihat Awads, but kind of, we didn't even really fully go after him. But like, where is this vermin vigor to dismantle care? Because I believe that even in our space, there's this fear of seeming like we hate Muslims. So we soften our messaging. We soften up the truth. We don't say certain truths because it's going to make people feel bad. So we just kind of go over here instead. It's like the psychological warfare and the psychological compromise has affected all of us, even those of us who are loud, proud Zionists. There's certain things we don't want to say, because the culture now says that if you say that, you are in the same category as insert whatever politician you hate, right? If you say that now, you're in line with Donald Trump, let's just say. Okay, I'm not going to say that. But the problem is there are things that are said that are just truth no matter who's saying it. There are things that are said that are just truth no matter who is saying it. And if it's the truth, you need to say it. If the head of CARE is saying that Hamas made him happy, that's a problem, you guys. He's not just, if he was just a random Muslim American on the street, it would still be a problem. But the fact that he's the head of a large, I think one of the largest Islamic organizations in America, saying that Hamas made him happy, what Hamas did on October 6th, on October 7th made him happy. I know organizations that have been audited and dismantled for way less. But part of the problem is we've accepted this. We've allowed ourselves to be compromised, and we've accepted this cultural thing that says you can't push too hard on the Muslims because they're Muslims. You can't. That's too much. Sorry, you can't do that. That's interesting. Someone said even on 9/11, a flight attendant ignored when hijackers had old shoes on with a new suit getting on the plane. Now, this was before 9/11, so, but like I was saying before, I think it was like 1993 or 4 when CARE was founded. So there's already this whole like kind of trying to make us more sensitive to. Now, mind you, this is America, right? Um, so we make fun of everything here, right? People make fun of Christians, make fun of Jews, make fun of Muslims. So yeah, I don't know if that was a result of the culture then, or just someone saying, okay, maybe they're just wearing old shoes. I mean, I've sometimes, before I had dress shoes, sometimes when I was younger, I would wear suits with tennis shoes on. I mean, that might just be a thing, right? But certainly, not too many years after 9/11, we have this overly sensitive nature toward Muslims, which look, everyone needs to be treated with dignity and respect, right? But then to the point where now we're seeing these red flags and not saying anything about them. That's going to be our detriment no matter what group I'm talking about. I don't care who it is. Which is why I say, because I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. The new person who is the Antisemitism Taskforce co-chair of Harvard, he's Jewish. Great. He's an anti-Zionist Jew. He's a rabid anti-Zionist Jew. He has said some pretty awful things about his own people, saying that hatred runs through the veins of the Jewish people. This is a Jewish guy. He's the co-chair of the Anti-Semitism Task Force of Harvard. The co-chair is a Jewish guy who hates Jews in Israel. Okay, if we applaud and stand up because we have a Jew on the task force, we're victims of the same thing. We can't play that game, you guys. We cannot play that game. We cannot play that game and expect to win because they invented that game. They set up that game. They set the rules. They set the parameters. We cannot win by playing their game. We can't. We simply cannot. The thing that the advantage that we have on our side is the truth. And the thing about their game is already a cheap counterfeit of the truth. Right? They try to hijack Dr. King and the civil rights movement. They try to hijack Nelson Mandela and AIDS. They try to hijack all that. We actually have the truth on our side, so we can actually organically do things that they're going to copy. But what we keep doing is copying them, who are already copying us. So it's a copy of a copy of a copy. We are not going to win that game. We have to be able to stand up and use our own brains, have our own critical thinking, use our own creativity, and actually go after these things instead of going after them within the confines of what culture is going to allow us to do. We'll never win that way, ever. Never, ever, ever. All right, welcome here, guys. I'm going to reset the room. We have about 10 minutes left. This is our weekly forum. I'm your host, Joshua Washington, the executive director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. We've been talking about some heavy stuff. I want to pause for a second and say, if you liked anything you've heard today and you are not a legacy builder or you are not a donor at all to IPSI, please become one. Scan the QR code that you see here. If you're on Instagram, go to ibsi.org and donate. Please, legacy builders are monthly givers. And with monthly givers, you can give a very low amount if you want to. I always challenge people to give at least $18 a month. You guys, we can't do the work that we do without funds. That's just how it is. So be a legacy builder. Donate to IPSI today. Don't let yourself hit your head hit the pillow of your bed before giving to IPSI. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about today, I do want to share this. It's a clip. Harry Belafonte, famous singer, was very close with Dr. King and his people, and he shared something that Dr. King, the last thing that he ever heard from Dr. King before he was assassinated, just days before he was assassinated. And I want to share that with you all now. So if you guys could pull up that video about the burning house, and I want you guys to see that. If we have it ready, if not, then I'll kind of summarize.
5 days, as a matter of fact, before he was murdered, he was at my home. We had just finished a strategy meeting on the Poor People's Campaign. And he seemed quite agitated after what we thought was a very successful gathering and discussion. And he said to me, I said, what's the matter, Martin? You seem very agitated. He said, well, I am. Because I've come upon a thought that I don't know how to deal with at this moment. I said, well, what is it? He said, we fought long for integration. It looks like we're going to get it. I think we get the laws. He says, but I'm afraid that I've come upon something I don't know quite what to do with. I'm afraid that we're integrating into a burning house. And when we asked for further clarification, Andy Young was with me at that time, my wife, others. He said, America's lost whatever little moral vision it had. Its moral sense has run away from the nation. And a nation that is not governed by morality and moral principles is a nation that's headed for an abyss. And I think black people have been struggling to get into this system, maybe getting into a system that in the final analysis is a Sodom and Gomorrah, will not work. Because its selfish goals, its need for profit, its need for supremacy, its need to be the best has clouded its moral vision. And with no moral vision, no nation can be healthy enough to lead it.
With no moral vision, and a nation can't be healthy enough to lead its people. For those who may not have heard, Dr. King said to him that I think we're going to get integration. I think that it's going to happen. Which obviously it did. And he said, but I'm afraid that we've integrated into a burning house. And this is, he was assassinated in 1968, right? April 4th, 1968. It's in the late 60s. He's saying America has lost its moral way. He's feared we've integrated into a burning house. And my father has taught this principle to us a lot, and kind of reminded me of this. When he was assassinated, just like Malcolm X, Dr. King was assassinated at 39. He didn't see 40. Still very young. I'll be 34 this year. I'm not that much younger than he was when he was assassinated. Views are still forming, learning about the world, very, very strong principles, but still, things were, as you get older, you have more wisdom and all that stuff. And I believe, I believe what he was saying to Harry Belafonte, what Harry was sharing with us, felt, whenever I see that, it's heavy on me. Like, he said, I have a thought that I don't know what to do with right now. I think we got integration, but I'm afraid that we've integrated into a burning house. And he said, Black Americans, Negroes we fought so hard to be a part of this system that I think is basically a broken system. Sounds to me like he's like, should we have been fighting so hard for this? And it's interesting because, and my father wrote an article just a few days ago that was published. He said what my mama taught me about the Claudine gaze. One of the things that he told us all my life growing up is that there was a big debate during, when my grandmother was younger. She would share these stories with my father, who would share them with me. Okay. And when these debates in the early 1900s would be happening about integration in schools. And when I say debates, I mean within the Black community, within Black America, right? Black Americans were debating the merits of integration, because what was happening was schools, black schools were getting way less funding than white schools. And part of that was because of, the money that circulated. This is a poor area, you don't get very much money. And so people were fighting, no, we want the same funding that these schools have. And so you shouldn't give us funding based on how many people have a lot of money in our area. We should all get the same funding. And so for those people, they're like, we don't want integration. We want to just be treated. We want better resources. We want better funding, all that stuff. And then the other side of the argument was that no, we need to all come together, kind of thing, right? We black people and white people, I want our kids to learn with the white kids. We want white people to accept us and all that stuff. And there was there were ongoing heated debates within the black community, because the ones who said that I don't want integration, they were saying that integration won't be it won't be a real integration. It'll be black kids going to white schools. There won't be any white teachers. Um, and like Malcolm X said, why would you let your enemy teach your children? It's only a fool will let their enemy teach your children. And why do we want these racist white teachers teaching our kids? Our kids are very smart. We just need more funding for our schools. We don't want to be with the white kids. Well, part of what happened when black kids were integrated into white schools, and my dad talked about this in the article, is that exactly that. So yeah, the black kids going to the white schools. So the black schools were vacated, right? Not demolished, just to mock the black people who used to go to those schools, just to mock black people. They would leave those schools empty and vacant, rotting and all, right? The black kids would go to the white schools where they would suffer all kinds of just horrible racist acts. And they were taught by white teachers. The only black administration, so these white schools would do things like this. They would fire all the teachers, all the competent ones, all the capable, smart ones. They would find the most unqualified, bumbling idiot of a black person and make that person principal, let's say. So that person doesn't manage well. That person does a terrible job. And just again, to mock the black people for wanting integration. Even the white people knew. In my opinion, even the racist white people knew, you really want to integrate with us? I mean, okay. And that's what they did. And also they can point to him and say, see, black people aren't capable. Look at him. He's an idiot. Well, yeah, you sought out the idiot and put him up there so that we can all, there are idiots in every ethnic group. You sought out the idiot among us, put him in the front. When he did a terrible job, you said, see, look at this idiot. That's why you niggers can't do anything. That's what they did. So that debate was happening then. And Dr. King, at this point, when he was talking to Harry Belafonte, was having this, he's 39 years old, having this conversation right at the forefront, pushing for all this stuff, saying, you know what, I think we might have integrated into a burning house. Not just for the racial reasons, though. He didn't, if you watch the clip again, he didn't say anything about whites, this and black. He talked about the economy, greed. He said Sodom and Gomorrah, all that stuff. He was talking about our moral decay. He was talking about the soul of the country. We live in an age of great compromise, you all, and it's even worse if he said that America's lost its moral way in 1968. My goodness, where are we now in 2024? I think that it goes so deep that many of us don't even know what it is, and that's what I mean by compromise, is that it's even affected those of us who are trying our best to stand on the side of truth. A lot of us have become compromised. A lot of us have made conscious choices to compromise ourselves. A lot of us don't even realize that we're compromised because we're kind of going along with what we see. We can't fall into that, you all. If we're going to stand on the side of truth, whatever issue it is, right? We're talking about Israel now. We have to be willing to speak truth to power, no matter what truth it is, and no matter what power we're speaking to. It has to be that way. We can't pick and choose who we're going to call out, what we're going to speak to based on how it makes us look and how we do in the polls. You know, when Dr. King was assassinated, his approval rating was 30%. His disapproval rating was 70%. 70% of the public disapproved, and black people too. He had a lot of opinions that didn't sit well. And I talked to the kids, I said it before, at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. We were in Wilshire Boulevard Temple in LA last week. I was there with my father. He spoke. I got to earlier that day. And I did music that evening, but then earlier that day in the afternoon, I got to speak with the children. There's about 100 or so kids there between, I think, grades 3 and 7 or something, 3 and 6. And they had learned about Dr. King all week, and then I got to share about him. And I didn't know what I was going to speak on. I was like, I don't know. I mean, it could be this, could be that. I was praying, and then literally just maybe 10 minutes before I went up there, I said, I know it. I know what to speak on. And I just spoke for maybe a few minutes, and we talked about the fact that Dr. King stood up and spoke truth no matter who got angry. I said, Dr. King, obviously, he spoke things that made white people angry, that made racist white people angry, I should say. But he also had relationships with the Jewish community, which made some of the black people angry. He also had opinions that made black people angry. He also had opinions about things like, I didn't talk about the Vietnam War, but I said he had opinions that made a lot of the population angry because there was a lot of the population that wanted to go in one direction. And Dr. King said that's not the right direction. And so he had people, it wasn't just racist white people, but he didn't care that it would make people angry for him to speak these things. And I said, true leadership, you guys, is standing up and not trying to hurt people, but not caring enough because you need to speak the truth, right? And it might even get the person closest to you mad at you. Might even be your own family member. But you know what? There are some people, even some of the people who ridicule you, some of those people even, they admire the fact that you stand and that you speak. They admire the fact that you stood up against the majority and said, okay, but this is this, you guys, we can't do this. And some of them may actually join you one day. But you have to be the one to do it, and you have to be the one prepared to be alone sometimes, and that's okay. Sometimes being alone actually helps sharpen your sword, right? It helps put a fire under you. But Dr. King was one that spoke truth no matter who got upset. You can agree with them, you can disagree. He had views that I don't agree with, right? He had more socialist leaning tendencies. That's fine, but what I admire about the man is that his strong beliefs, he would speak them. We have to get back to that. Let's stop looking at what's trending and what's who's saying what and what's good now. And okay, everyone's talking about this. Let's post something about this. You guys, we got to speak truth. We got to speak truth to power. And I know we're a little bit over time, but I want to end with this in that same vein of speaking truth to power. There's an article that just came out in Tablet Magazine. And you all have to read it. If you don't do anything else tonight, you're gonna donate to Ipsy and read this. It's called First They Came for My People, Then They Came for the Jews. It's a story about a South Sudanese former slave. He recognized the Palestinian pogrom on October 7th. And his name is Simon Deng. He talks about the depths of, he said, I mean, even what he shared was so deep and heavy about how when he was sold in slavery as a kid, how his own tribesmen sold him out, tricked him and sold him out, and he was able to escape some years later. He said, no one can really explain what slavery is. I can't even explain fully what it is. He said, it's much worse than even what I'm saying. I'm telling you I had to sleep with the animals every night. I'm telling you that no one loved me. I'm telling you that I got beat all the time. And I can't even explain to you how hellish it was. But then later on, he talks about how the same mindset and the same group of people, the same link in the chain that attacked Israel on October 7th. He said, I looked and I saw my people again. This is what happened to us on a regular basis. And if it wasn't for Israel secretly helping the South Sudanese fight off the Arab terrorists and actually getting them to the negotiating table, they wouldn't have been able to do it. You have to read it. And again, in the same vein of speaking truth, you guys, there's an Arab slave trade that's been going on since the 7th century. Millions of African slaves under the rule of Arabs and other and Muslims across different parts of Africa, Mauritania, Libya, Nigeria, Sudan, and other places. And this is the link, right? Hamas isn't just interested in destroying Israel. Iran doesn't want to just destroy Israel and the U.S., which those things are already horrible enough. They want to establish a global rule, and they want to rule through force and enslave the rest of the population. That's been their MO for centuries, and that's we have to remember that greater goal. And they're already doing it in many parts of Africa. So we have to really stand as watchmen and call this stuff out. And if these things that I'm sharing with you now are making you squeamish and you're in this space, then I'll say it again, maybe you should consider doing something else. All right, not to end on that note, but we kind of have to today. Thank you all again for joining us. This is IPSI's Forum on Africa, Israel, and Black America. I'm your host, Joshua Washington, Executive Director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. We'll be back next Monday. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can follow us at IPSI now on all of our social media platforms. Follow us, donate, be a legacy builder. And we hope to see you all on this, what's looking like an IPSI tour, kind of like we're all over the place in the next few months. Check out our events. Come and see us. Come and talk to us. We'd love to meet you. Thank you so much, you all. Have a good rest of your week. Take care.